Hello, my name is Willow. I am a detransitioner. In high school, I thought I was a trans man, which started in my junior year, well, 2000, that was 2011, to after I graduated, which was in 2014. And yes, I graduated late. Don't judge me. I've decided, I've been inspired to make a series of videos where I kind of just go over like why I detransitioned to begin with, why I transitioned, and what I learned, what I regretted, and like other things that will come to mind as I keep going. And the reason why I'm making these videos is not because I want to, force people to change their minds or anything, or dissuade anyone. It's my goal pretty much is to like give information that I didn't have back in the day, and so that maybe you or someone you know, maybe it's your kid, I don't know, won't make the same mistake I did, as well as other detransitioners who unfortunately went through the same thing. So I'm going to list off first why I detransitioned, what inspired me to detransition, and they'll kind of together, so it's kind of hard to actually like give a comprehensive list. Although I do have my notes, so it is kind of a comprehensive list, but as I'm saying them, I might jumble them up because they do all go into each other in different ways and they're not consequential. But there's it's kind of split into like the main conscious reasons why I decided to do this, to go back, and the other reasons that I thought of later that were probably more subconscious at the time, and then they became more conscious as I kept doing it. So there's two major reasons that came to mind at the very beginning. And one of them kind of had to do with motivation. And by that I mean like at some point in 2014, I was doing I was doing just the hormone injections. I never did surgery or anything like that. I socially transitioned and I hormonally transitioned, but that's all I did. And I was taking these injections for two times a month. Here we go. 2 times a month, and after high school, I did get a job, but like at some point, I don't. It's not super clear all the memories, so I am also going to be jumbled on that too. It's not going to be super clear for me because it's been so long. That was like 6 years ago, so I don't really perfectly crystal clear remember it. But yeah, I was doing it twice a month, and at some point I was like, this is becoming a chore, and I was beginning to question, like, what was the point of me doing this? And that was mainly because I think I was reaching an age where I was actually starting to think about the rest of my life. And it wasn't it wasn't a fully conscious thing I was thinking about, but it kind of went into my mind of what if I did get that bottom surgery, and then I would have to rely on these injections, which I didn't, I, I was very rapidly being like, I don't want to do this forever. I don't want to have to do it forever. And I don't think I was thinking this, but like, what if I decided to go back? What if I didn't want to do it anymore? Then I'd be, well, basically surgically menopausal woman, and that already has its own drawbacks and complications. But I wasn't actively thinking that. I know it now, definitely. I'm glad I didn't do that. But and one of the reasons why it felt like a chore too is because I felt like I pretty much reached my goal, and the goal pretty much was, for all intents and purposes, I passed as male. So that's the big thing that I wanted, which I think I want to get into that in the video where I describe why I transitioned to begin with, so I'm going to leave that one alone. Yeah, so I passed, and I guess I was also thinking, like, if I was really a man, I wouldn't have to do this. Which goes into another point, which feels kind of minor, that because I wasn't actively thinking about it then. I only thought about it later, where pretty much I realized that I was fighting something, and with graduation, and I wasn't seeing people as often, and especially when I got laid off from my job, it was like nothing was happening anymore. I didn't have to really go out as much. I didn't have to, or like I didn't really want to. And especially after a major surgery that happened to me, I didn't want to go out anymore for a really long time. And again, I don't think I was consciously thinking this. I think I was more like, it was a very subconscious, where I wanted to go out and present a certain way. But that's that was going kind of in the minor area. Another major point of, I guess, contention for me was dating. Dating was very limited. I did experiment as much as I could and as much as I was capable of, but I was a shy kid, so, and even when I did approach someone that I liked, I would get rejected, and those people who I would go up to were all straight dudes. So, and I did think that I was bisexual for a really, really long time, and even though I never had any crushes on any female ever, except for like one of my friends, but it wasn't even that like long lasting of a crush. It was extremely fleeting, and it was more like a partial physical thing anyway. Uh, you know, never crossed my mind to. I mean, especially in high school, there was nobody else who was trans or anything, so never ever crossed my mind to date one of those people. And even outside of high school, when I got into dating apps, I don't know, I guess I just never saw them, or their profile was super cryptic and I couldn't trust it. Makes sense, I guess, because they're trying to be stealthy. But anyway, yeah. So in high school is very limited, and then also outside of high school, when I was going on online dating, it was also very limited. And the experiences I did have with dates, I guess you could call them, it was more like a single meetup, and then we never saw each other again. Whatever you'd call that, I had those when I was trying to experiment outside of high school with these online dates. I only had one where I was a trans man, and I was trying to date one gay guy, and I'm not going to get into the detail, but it wasn't good. It was very creepy to me, as in it didn't match up. Nothing matched. Like, not only was he unattractive to me, but you know, I'm not a gay man. Just end of story. Point blank. Period. That's it. And I don't know if I already mentioned it, but there was at one point in high school where I did try to date, kinda experiment with my gay friend at the time, and that didn't work because, like, number one, we were best friends. That's a weird thing to surpass. I don't know how friends with benefits works. I don't know how other people do it, I mean. But, no. And then the second obvious main thing, I'm not a gay man. I wasn't attracted in that kind of way. So, that was weird. And then, yeah, so I think eventually I was more consciously aware of the fact that the dating pool available to me was very unappealing to me. I am, well, deep down, I'm not bisexual. I'm not asexual either, which was one thing that I thought that I was because of these limitations that I had technically put onto myself. And I forgot what I was going to say. Great. Wasn't interested in straight girls. Like, maybe partially on a physical level, I was like, I'm okay with it, but not on a romantic and sexual level, you know? Not into that at all. And gay men, just like, there's an invisible wall between me and them. That's what was going on. And besides, like, looking back at all the crushes I've ever had in my entire life were all straight dudes, so I think that was kind of a dead giveaway. But yeah, so those are like the main points. Dating was limited, and because of that, it just kind of made my life a little bit more, that much more miserable. And other reasons why I detransitioned was because they were kind of minor, or maybe not, I don't know, but I guess when I say minor, I say it wasn't exactly on the forefront of my mind. I remember thinking one of my female friends in high school, she was very masculine. She was way more masculine than I ever was even on testosterone. It just blew me out of the water, seriously. But I was wondering, uh, like, why does why she accept that she's female and she's masculine? Why doesn't she be trans? Like, why doesn't she go down the same path that I went down? And that kind of that question could be turned to me, where it's like, why do I feel like I had to be trans just because I felt masculine? And I thought that was a very important question at the time. And there was this one time while I was still trying to be trans. At one point, I don't remember when, my mom asked me, or not asked me, she told me to work with what I have, uh, because she knew I wasn't really a guy. So she said like really subtle things where she didn't believe me. She accepted me, yes, but she didn't really believe it. She wanted to support me. She's one of those cool moms. And so she said, work with what you have. And it wasn't conscious for me yet, but like later on, I kind of like, you know, pieced it together. Hi, boy. Oh, what was that? It's my cat. He's probably gonna make a fuss. Where was I? Work with what you have. So that went into later on. What? What do you see? Go get it. Okay, I let my cat out. I realized slowly that I was rejecting my my body, that was given to me, and while rejecting it, I was working so hard against it, which goes into the whole testosterone was a chore kind of thing. It was like I was fighting so hard, injecting every uh, twice a month, and that was me fighting against my body. And surgery is also another fight against the body, and pretty much I guess it dawned on me I wanted to stop rejecting and punishing myself, which that led into what, like, this was another thing that I thought about later, where when listening to other detransitioner stories, uh, I don't remember who, but there was like maybe one or two that were saying like, I realized that it was the look that I wanted. I wanted to look like a man, and I realized that that's what I was doing too. That I wanted to dress the part. I wanted to, every time I wanted to go outside, I wanted to look a certain way. Of course, when I was home, I didn't care as much, which fed into the whole this is a chore type thing. And this was another point that uh, that I was, how do I phrase it, that I heard from another detransitioner, where like, when you're trying to do your research and look at other real trans people going through their journey, uh, pretty much every single time they would always say, when I was like fresh out of the womb, when I was 4 years old or something, I knew And when I was doing my research at this time, I knew that I was just completely full of it. I knew I was lying to myself, but I rejected that lie. And I knew that I didn't feel like a man as soon as I could talk, you know? Like, how I concluded it in my mind was, well, I feel masculine, which basically was, in all reality, I am a tomboy, and that's it. But I took it, and so those are the reasons pretty much why I did that video. I'll piece other things together as to why I did detransitioned as well, because it does go into like why I transitioned to begin with. But I wanted to move on to things that I regretted while doing it, and I do share the same regrets that other detransitioners had, where, like, first and foremost, especially when it's just a hormonal transition, the voice. Well, this one's mine personally. I didn't like the Adam's apple, and I don't know, can't really see it, but I mean, I've worked on it. It's not as prominent as it used to be, but the hair, I still do get hairs growing, and yeah, you can get like a laser hair removal or electrolysis, which is a little expensive, so I can't do that yet. And it's not just here. It's also down here. I get a sparse amount. It's definitely not as much as it used to be. But they're very dark in comparison to my chin hairs, which luckily, at least here, is mostly just peach fuzz. It's a little slightly more dense than peach fuzz, but you can't really see it that much, so I do pluck them, but they're still there. You can, they're they're long enough to where it's like, oh, I don't want that. But on my chin, it's definitely a lot more coarse. And sometimes, I don't know why, but I'll get like one or two really dark brown, like, my head hair. I'll just grow and I'll be like, ugh. Yeah, but like, outside of the physical stuff, um, uh, sorry, with my voice, let me elaborate on that. My voice was, it wasn't like the manliest voice, like, how some of the transitioners have that tranny voice, and you can kind of tell that you went on hormones way too fast. You took too much all at once, and your voice didn't gradually fall down or whatever as a trans man. But I don't know. Mine was like upper masculine, I guess. Like almost woman. Just below like androgynous, I guess. I was around there. And while I was detransitioning, that was my voice. And I regretted it for the longest time, even though it's been about 6 years since I've been, going hard on estrogen. Uh, and only recently, I don't know, a couple of years ago, started really doing voice training. I'm pretty much satisfied with it right now, but for the longest time when it was it was deep enough to where if like somebody was behind me and I wasn't wearing particularly feminine clothing, they would just think I'm a dude, or they would hear my voice and be like, "Oh, that's a guy." Whoops. And you could hear it in their voices too. They're like, "Oh my god, I didn't mean to do that." And I'm like, "No, you were right. You were right at the beginning." That was much more devastating than I'm saying right now. Oh my god. And yeah, so outside of that part, uh, there was another physical thing. I'm not really gonna go into it, but when you go on testosterone, you know the thing, the sex organ, was that enlarged, and that made my confidence really plummet. I was like, who's gonna wanna date a girl with like a 1 incher? You know, that that's not the worst possible symptom, you know. I think the voice is a little bit worse. But anyway, my other regrets, like social regrets, psychological regrets, are that I think, to some extent, it disabled me from experiencing life as a teenage girl. Because I was being pretty much an adolescent boy. I wasn't really a teenage boy. And a lot goes into that. But like one of the things is you can't really get in touch with men because like they go through their own puberty, and you didn't go through that because you don't have the same organs, you know. But you can't really relate to women because it's just like, sure, you have the same organs, but you don't have the same experiences. So it's just like a puzzle piece that just doesn't fit anywhere. That's what I was. And I was like, if I wasn't already a black sheep among the people, I like painted myself even darker. Just like, hello, I'm weird. I just put a neon sign over me saying like, bully me. No, I wasn't bullied. You know what I mean. Let's see. And this goes into the dating thing that I mentioned earlier. That like I regretted how it disrupted my sexuality. Because I wasn't attracted to my my pool, what was delegated to me, technically speaking. uh, I couldn't get physically intimate with anybody because nobody wanted me and I don't think I wanted them. So yeah, so at some point I was like, I did label myself as asexual because I wasn't attracted to gay men. I wasn't attracted to straight men, or sorry, straight women. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just asexual then. That seems to be my only option. There's no attraction left or right. And one of the really big things that I struggled with was being seen as attractive. It did not feel good looking at all whatsoever. I felt super ugly. I know, looking back, I'm like, I wasn't that bad. Jeez, why was I my own worst enemy? Good lord. But I I felt super ugly, and I was so depressed. I wasn't taking care of myself either. And uh, and going through that awkward phase of here's my second puberty, and then here's my third one. You don't look very good during that time. Although when you are passing as the opposite gender, you do reach a point where like this is the image that looks okay, because I pretty much kind of mastered it, so that looks fine. But when you're going through those awkward phases, like when you're growing out your hair, it's just like it's the awkward, and then eventually it grows out, and you're like, okay. But yeah, no, I regretted that for the longest time because I mean it wasn't just obviously like I had shaved my hair down to like an inch or so. It wasn't just the hair, it was like the fat distribution. I looked like a guy for several months. I think even years. I didn't even have like a waist for the longest time. I had to work on it. And my face looked more square. Uh, so, and then for a while, you can't see it on this camera, I don't think, but I don't know what it's called. Above the brow bone, I thought this protruded out really far, like a man's, and and I was so conscious about it. I would try to like grow bangs out, not like these. I actually had like hair grown out, and I would try to cover it up because I thought it protruded out so much, and I was like, oh no, I look like a dude. Oh my god. And I remember like in my downtime or whatever, I would just be like pressing it in so it would go back. I don't want it anymore. And then I was thinking, oh no, I'm gonna have to have surgery to get that removed. But like eventually, when it finally started being like, okay, I'm looking more and more like a girl, and I'm sounding like one too. Wow, people are seeing me as a lady. I cared about that less, and I was like, there's a lot of other women that have it probably a little bit more protruding than I do, so I'm like, it's fine. But yeah, uh, I could probably uh, go into that more in another video, but right now these are the points that I have. I regretted it like crazy, but you know, now when I think back on it, like, yeah, I butchered my voice, and now it's like kind of gravelly and kind of husky. Uh, and I might have like botched my social life at that point, but it's just like I I can improve that as an adult. I don't need to rely on high school experiences that much. So, I mean, like I would have had deeper regrets if I had done actual surgical things, like getting top surgery and especially bottom surgery. I would have had deeper regrets, and I do feel for those who did get those surgeries and then they were like, oh wait, I'm not trans. And so it's not funny, I'm sorry. I just do that. um so I mean, like, all in all, as far as regrets go, it's not really that bad. But I'm not like, I recommend going on hormones just so you can kind of see. It's like, I think that like some of us, some detransitioners get it really lucky especially uh, the age that you did it on. Like, if you do it as an adult, you're probably not going to have as much of an issue going back. But whereas if you're like, I don't know, 11, 12, something like that, I did mine when I was like 16 or 17 or something. So I was pretty much, not that I was done with female puberty, but I had enough of it coursing through my body that my body was like, this is it. This is pretty much what you look like. Take it. And testosterone just didn't do that much. But I'm sure if I had it when I was way younger, like if I had those blockers, I wouldn't have what I have. And I think other people just would react to it differently, and you might get it a lot worse and then completely regret some of the changes that are actually irreversible. Because, testosterone would be going off of like what your dad looks like, so you'd be starting to look like him, and maybe this bone here would be getting really protrude out and you look like a Neanderthal. Or your shoulders broaden a little, which is what kind of happened to me. So that's why mine are a little bit, I guess. I don't know. It's just that one's actually hard to say, but you might get something that might look just permanently like a dude. So no, I wouldn't recommend going on hormones just to see if you would be more comfortable with it as a man, or as an androgynous person or whatever. I would suggest going to therapy, like how I failed to do. I did go to therapy, just wasn't that good. Get a good therapist. That's my biggest thing of advice. Get a good, real therapist. That's it. That's a different story for me on a different day. But yeah, make sure you're around people who actually want to talk through it with you and really make you introspect and go through the proper reasons why. Is it really manliness or manhood, or is it I want to look a certain way, or I reject this certain side of me? Um, but the last thing I want to point out is the things that I'm grateful for, because there were things that there was positive things to glean off of this experience. And again, I'm not recommending going on it just to get these things. But the biggest thing that I learned out of all of this was on a hormonal level, what men go through, and slightly on a social level. I wasn't that deep in the male trenches, you know. uh, and I think because I like understand men in that way, I give them more slack, which I think maybe, I mean, in my experiences with some, they tend to feel more at ease with me. Maybe that's just them. I don't know, but I feel like I get it more. Whereas some other women can be, some, not all, they can be a little bit more critical. Like they won't understand why a man is so competitive or so sexualizes everything. That's just what testosterone does. They don't really, they're not really conscious of it. They just do it. And so I'm not critical of that because I see it and understand it. uh, and another thing that was important to me, and in my future, in my current life right now, is I understand the importance of gender roles and how they fit in society and why we need them. And I guess I could elaborate on that in another video, but I'm not going to do it now. also with child rearing, like kids need gender roles. They do. That's one thing I learned from being raised gender neutrally. They need it. Otherwise, I get confused. But in any case, I'm also not going to elaborate on that now. I'm just thankful that that's what I know now. And on a personal level, I'm thankful that I was able to accept the body that I was born with, the personality that I was born with, and the femininity. That word. I can't say it. Femininity. That was like a tongue twister in one word. It's weird. I learned to accept all that, and it took me ages. I hated it for my entire life until I detransitioned, and I pretty much gradually fully accepted it, and I'm grateful for that because that's just who I am. I am feminine. I'm not very masculine. I am in some ways, but that's because I'm a human being. But it's just nice to know how to balance it out and accept these things that I have. And that's pretty much what I have right now. I'm gonna elaborate probably on in other videos, but this is what I have now. So catch you then. Bye.